have a wonderful exhibit which was collaborative among students, professors, and the department to provide a wonderful community experience through Minka.
Welcome everybody, bienvenidos a todos. It's a great pleasure to see so many people arrive. And those of you that, I see many Andean faces among you, are well accustomed to tiempo peruano. So what else is new?
How was I involved in this? George asked me to come along with him to work on the photography, and I couldn't say no. So,
let me extend my welcome to President Reese, to my distinguished colleagues, to Dean Larson, who I see, Provost Martino, especially to all those Andean faces that I see amongst us, and especially to my students whose efforts have brought this exhibit into being. And they're definitely to be congratulated. Some of you are aware of the fact that a part of this exhibit that you will see is shared by an exhibit that is currently going on at Yale University at the Peabody Museum of Natural History there. And a month ago I was back there for the opening of that exhibit, and it is a spectacular exhibit. I happened this morning to be talking to a member of the staff there, and they had just received our invitation for this exhibit. And the woman said, "George, how did you do that? We couldn't pull an announcement off like that for Loebner money." So congratulations to Sylvia Medeiros for one of the all-time greatest brochures ever produced on this.
I helped put together a display about how the native people survived in the verticality of the mountains and the different regions and the flora and the fauna of the different regions. And I found a lot of interesting facts out. I learned a lot about my ancestry and my heritage. Thank you for that.
This exhibit has been created truly in an Andean sense of reciprocity. There is an absolutely essential tenet of social organization of the Andean world called Minka, in which people participate in reciprocal relationships for the good of the community. And this particular group of students has definitely lived out that particular spirit more than I think any class that I've previously had. And what you'll see inside, the quality of the work, is to be congratulated, but the way that they have brought it into being as co-workers, maybe the fact that almost all of them are women has something to do with it. But
hi Mom, hi Dad, hi Margie, hi Kathy, hi Dr. Miller. I really enjoyed working on the exhibit. I thought it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot, and I hope I get an A in class. Thank you very much.
But since this is an Andean exhibit, you never lay the cornerstone to a new house or break the first clod of a new field or open a new exhibit perhaps without a pago. You have to pagar la tierra. You have to honor the spirits that brought us into being. Que Inti, Huiracocha, el espíritu de Pachacuri Yupanqui nos bendiga.
What this university does so well, people working together to create something very important, something that is lasting, and that is part of the resources that the university has for teaching students now and into the future. So I couldn't be more proud than I am this evening.
So I feel that this exhibit is saying about Machu Picchu is that the origin of Machu Picchu, who had the idea to build it in Pachacuri, the first Inca ruler. And so the most difficult part of this exhibit was to do the research. So tons of research to do. And so I came up with the overview. We talk about how the Inca Empire called a country, who's Pachacuri, the real Inca Empire, real Inca ruler of the empire, and we talk about Cusco. And finally, we talk about the Chasqui, this little guy over here. He's the Inca runner, and he would deliver messages to the administrator, from the Inca to the administrator, or for the people. So I think the reaction of the people toward this exhibit has been good. They like the little guy. They think that he's cute. I don't know if you can see on camera, there's a little llama in the back, and they totally love it. Being in this museum class has been awesome. I learned so many things that I thought I wasn't creative at all. And I had the pleasure to see my other classmates do the project, and it gives me an idea what I can do and how they did it. So maybe in the future I can reproduce it. So I think it was a great class. It's awesome.
This is an exhibit of the astronomy, the archaeoastronomy of the Incas. The rock that you see in front of the mountains, that is representative of the sacred rock that is at Machu Picchu. And the mountain behind looks like the sacred rock. Yes. And the mountains were really important to the Inca because that was the start of their water cycle, which the snow melted and went down into the rivers and then into the ocean and then up through the Milky Way, the celestial river. For the foreground, I made mountains, and I made that out of celluclay, which is kind of like paper mache, and a bunch of foam underneath, and I painted it. I needed a backdrop showing the stars effectively, and I decided to put Christmas lights up on the back wall, and then paint this whole background with the Milky Way and all that, and poke holes in it, and then the Christmas lights shine through, so it sort of sparkles. The people's reactions have been very positive, I'd say. Yes, they're delighted to see it. My experience with the museum class has been, personally, I've really grown from this experience, because I didn't know I was creative, actually, before this, and it was fun, because unlike other exhibits where you have brown artifacts in brown cases, this really brought the Inca alive.
Basically, this is an exhibit of the burning colpas, and what happened right after the Spanish arrived is that the Incas didn't want them to get any of their textiles or pottery or any of their food supplies. So when they arrived, they burned all of these storage units down. Basically, that's what this exhibit is. As far as what went into making it, it's paper mache and a lot of artistic license maybe on my part, but I tried to make it as realistic as possible. People's reactions to this exhibit have been great, especially kids. Kids seem to really like it, which makes me happy. I think they think that it's creative and something a little fun and more maybe a little interactive. My experience being in the museum class has been great. This is actually my second exhibit in this class. It's a lot of work at first, but it feels good to actually have a finished product that you can have your friends and family come in and look at, and your fellow students. So it's a nice hands-on experience.
Well, the exhibit is about the Incan Empire, and specifically Machu Picchu, which was a beautiful, can be called the resort of the Incan Empire. It's very well known for its fantastic architecture and masonry and breathtaking views. What went into the creation of this exhibit was a whole lot of work and a whole lot of teamwork. This particular piece is an agricultural terrace, and this is how the Incas were able to feed over 6 million people in the Incan Empire. You have to remember that the Incan Empire encompassed the Andes, which is all slopes and very high elevations. They didn't just have flat pasture grasslands, so they had to do everything like this in a staircase fashion. So basically what they did is they created retaining walls out of fitting stones, one upon each other, and creating kind of a staircase pasture land, such as you can see right here. And then they would grow crops and potatoes and corn and lots of tubers on the tops of and along the staircases. Many people didn't really know too much about the Incan Empire, so in this way I think it's a really fantastic learning opportunity, but it's also a whole lot of fun, especially our virtual reality. And I think there's just a really wonderful feel to the whole exhibit, and there's a lot of really neat stuff to look at and learn about. Being in the museum class has been spectacular. I would recommend it 100% to anybody, whether or not they are interested in anthropology or archaeology or the museum sciences, because it has just been so fun and it's been such a creative learning process. And Dr. Miller, the director of archaeology here at Cal State Hayward, is fantastic. He's a phenomenal man. He's very fun to work with. It's a whole lot of teamwork, and it's just a whole lot of fun, and learning and research and painting and drawing and constructing and cleaning and drywalling, and it's just a whole lot of fun. It's nothing you would expect at a college.
My exhibit is about actually there's two segments in there. One is about the women in the Incan Empire and what their role was in terms of creating textiles and making food, and chicha, which is the corn beer that was used in ceremonies and as an everyday drink, as well as the storehouses or colcas that the Incans built in order to store the fruits of their labor. And it entailed making models of the storehouses out of foam and paint and raffia, as well as displaying some of the pictures and the artwork the Incan people created. This exhibit is showing the ingenuity and the resourcefulness of the Incan people by building these storehouses. It made it possible for all of the Incan people to survive the harshness of the environment. Because the Andes are, not a lot of crops are grown in the higher elevations, so the storehouses made it possible for the Incan people in the lower elevation to, via the roads, Incan roads, to exchange the goods and the crops so that they had a variety of food to eat. My experience in the museum class has been wonderful. In fact, this is probably the best class that I've taken ever since I've started school here, because it incorporates my creativity as well as the learning that it's involved, as well as working in a team, to create something that will be good for the good of not just myself in the class, but the public that comes in and sees the exhibit.
The exhibits I worked on were pre-Inca, so they talked about the cultures that led up to Inca. So to explain the baseline of the intricacies of their traditions and rituals, and such as textiles, such as ceramics, such as agriculture, and to prove that Inca just didn't fall out of the sky, that a lot of cultures mixed and meshed and shared information leading up to what is now known as Inca and Machu Picchu. Everything was two-tiered because we also had to do the research, which took many weeks, and you often get entangled in the research, and then you had to decide how you would display it. So with every exhibit that I worked on, those were two things I had to think about. For instance, just to jump off at that point, everything takes 10 times longer than you would ever imagine. I think we heard that like a million times throughout getting ready for this project. So if you just think you're going to put ceramics out onto a platform, you have a rude awakening, because everything has to be earthquake safe, and every little inch of space has to be accounted for. In addition to it working well with the research and the label copy that is presented with it. Some of the students and teachers who have come to look at the museum have told me that the caliber of the museum is well beyond what they had expected, and I think that's the same for us who worked on it as well. I worked on the museum last year, and we can proudly invite our friends to this exhibit, because it is something that is incredible. You don't see a college working on this level. Being in the museum class was a collaborative experience. I think at the very end, when it came down to we have to get everything up on the walls by 3:59, we used skills that had been specialized in the last few weeks. Some people had been specialized label copy cutters. Others had been specialized in other aspects of getting the museum prepared. So I think that we used talents and strengths to their best, and applied people's talents and strengths to this museum. I think that a lot of students didn't realize how much work would be put into putting together a museum within a couple of months, and we really had an awakening as to how much work it was, and also to how working within teams. And I think that we've we got trained in how to work in teams and how to adequately use people's strengths towards the project.
Speak up.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
Hi George, want to buy a calendar?
Congratulations to George and his students on another fine exhibit.
And I ditto that.
Well, this time I think the exhibit was truly awesome. Am I supposed to look at the camera or at you? The camera, okay.
Don't tell any stories.
Hey, listen.
George doesn't know anything, any of the truth.
George is insane. I'm swearing. I know him for 20 years now.
How was Peru? Was it the best?
That wasn't the best.
Hang on a second. Am I supposed to, like, when you say going into the exhibit, you mean like the materials? Well,
To have to cut.
The creative learning process. And Dr. Miller, the director of archaeology here at Cal State Hayward, is fantastic. He's a phenomenal man. He's very, very fun to work with, as well as Marjorie Rhodes and Kathy. I don't remember her last name.
Actually, that you probably did describe it a little bit.
That's her asking that.
They'll probably take out that part where it says CSU's crap.